Well, hello everyone, and we are back at this point in the Corgi Christmas night, or winter's night, I guess is really what I'm calling it. And what I thought I would start working on tonight is going to be showing you how I did kind of the stones. So as you can see, this is what I started with, and this is what I've ended up with. So I thought that I would go ahead and start showing you that. And again, one of the things that I seem to have done is snuck a Schpirerr Farben in here, but, and I don't know why. I don't know, because I'm using my Prismacolors otherwise, but I'm going to go ahead and stick with this. But again, you can kind of see what the color is and make a judgment. It is a fairly... So it's the Schpirerr Farben number 053, but if you look at it, I mean, it's just a blue. And one of the reasons I'm doing blue is because I want to really kind of keep it cold with the only warmth really coming from the lights of the candles and the light coming out, because it's supposed to be a crisp evening, so to speak. So I'm going to go ahead and start working and kind of show you. So when I was doing this, one of the things is I noticed there was already lines there, so that at least there's a guide for some of the straight lines. And so all I did was kind of go in and lightly sketch those across in this case. So what I like about it is, you know, there's ones here on this side for me to kind of see how that went. We're just going to do just a few, just kind of connecting those dots. That's all I'm doing. So I'm using those as my guides, and it's also going to help me in the future kind of make those disappear so that you don't notice those. So luckily, like I said, there's already some lines in here for some of the perspective, and we're just going to take that across, kind of connect it. Now the good thing is it's stone. It's the side of a building. It's at night. It doesn't have to be perfectly straight, and the stone wouldn't have been anyways. So let me go ahead and bring you in just a little bit. I'm sorry, I just realized that you're quite a ways out. So bring him down. So again, just kind of starting over here and ever so lightly coming across. And you know me, queen of layers. So we start out, these are going to be guidelines for some of my stones. And it helps me keep kind of the side perspectives and the angles so that I'm not having to make those decisions. We're going to do the same thing coming down here, so I'm just going to go ahead and I'll probably start from the bottom. It's just a little easier for the way that my hand is handed. And we're just going to come up with a couple straight lines right across, ever so lightly. So I've just kind of connected a lot of those lines. I'll do that here on this part as well. And it just helps me with the perspective, because I don't do really well when I'm trying to sketch. But I'm hoping that maybe through all this that I'm kind of doing with the coloring and kind of seeing how things, maybe I'll get better. I know it all takes practice, and that's really what I should be doing. But for now, using other people's lines is going to have to be my cheat. Alright, so we've done all just the horizontal lines across, and then now what I'm going to do is not really look across the whole way, because again, remember, these are stones, and stones have different textures, and you want the different pitches and valleys, and I just start kind of sketching them in and just kind of letting it happen a little bit naturally. But again, the freeing thing with this is that it does not have to be so imposing, because it's stone. So the next color that I'm going to use is my sand brown. Let's see, sandbar brown. Oh, getting better at being able to pick these out kind of quickly. Sandbar brown, PC 1094. And this is where I'm going to start kind of going really lightly, and this is kind of putting in along those blue lines just a little bit of that stone edge color. So think about it as a shadow. Now here with this little yellow, I'm going to do it really light. And luckily, since I've already put down the yellow glow, that's going to help. Remind me that I want to, and look right there, I'm thinking there should be some more stones, so I'm going to add a stone or two in. And I'm just kind of going in and touching up here and there, and then I think I'm going to go back in and start sketching in some actual stones, and then I can show you how I do the stone itself. So seriously, I'm just going to go back over a little bit, and then I'm going to come back in and start making kind of the little squares. So we're just putting a little shadow, starting to So I'm bringing in the Schpirerr Farben, the 053, and then I'm just going to kind of let my eye kind of go and start making little blocks. Now you don't want the blocks all in a row because that's not how stones are. And I actually kind of round corners a little bit just to give that little bit more texture. So as you can see, it's already adding a type of texture, and you just kind of go with it, you know, and you let it, and you don't want your blocks all to be in the same size because they wouldn't have been. The stonemasons wouldn't have done that. They would have been fitting them and making them kind of stack. So these aren't bricks, they're stone, so that makes it, and they would have been chiseled, and so that's one of the freeing things about it. Don't get yourself too concerned for right now, and do everything really lightly. And so you can see, so now we've got the front facade for that stone. I'm going to go ahead and do the other two, and I'll come back in just a moment. Okay, so I've started putting in my sandbar brown. I'm going to go ahead and do the same here on the front so you can see what I'm doing. And this is just where you start giving more texture to everything. And it's fairly random. It's not something that I, look really, really close at. But I kind of think about how the stones and stuff would have, different depth to them. So they're kind of craggy. They have kind of their edges are going to be worn. There's going to be pits and dark places. So I just start putting in the brown right now, just kind of randomly in those and just kind of making it. And I still have some highlight spots. That's probably one of the bigger things to kind of give yourself some, leave some whites so that you can always have that highlight. When I'm using my pencils, that is one of the challenges I have, is I can't really go in and add highlights unless painted something really, or not painted, colored something really dark, but even then I can't put the highlights on top of it. So I have to always keep in mind that I might want to highlight somewhere around there. Now this is when also I start kind of putting more shadows in some places, kind of marking it. But the main color of this stone is going to be this brown, so I'm not doing it heavily, but I'm just giving it some texture. And that's what I've done. If you look back here, I've added in the brown there, and then the brown I've already added in there. So I'm just putting it in the front here for you to be able to see kind of, and again, just very random, very free flowing right now. Stone should be like that. It should be very, very flowing and just kind of, if you make it too uniform, then it actually draws attention. So right now up here, I feel like this draws more attention than that does because I haven't put in the other texture, so to speak, yet. So I've kind of even put some striations in here, kind of like you can see there's actual little lines, and then there's just the regular spaces as far as just that. And I still, as you can tell, I'm using my little ovals, but that's just how I color. It helps to alleviate too many straight lines, and again, allows me to make it look a little bit more like it's stone. Alright, so as you can see, it's already starting to add that texture that I kind of was talking about. And now I'm going to go in, and because this is a cream blue stone, I have a tendency to do this a lot. I think it's like my favorite stone color combination that I do in when I kind of think of England. I think it's just one of my favorites. So now I'm just going in with the slate gray, that's PC 936. And this one I'm going to start very lightly, but not lightly. I'm actually pushing down quite hard to get some good dark shadows, but you'll see I really am just putting little tiny spots. So thinking of this as part of like almost the darkest spot of that stone. I kind of put it underneath the brown if I want it to shade a little bit more. I might put it across very randomly right now. Some of it is touching and going over the brown, others is going into the white a little bit where there is no color yet. So I mean, very random, but just kind of, you know, think about those shadows and shades that you see of stone. They're it's all over. The stones can have a lot of different coloring to them, but it's also because of like the pitting or the chips that are out of it. And that's kind of what I think about. And I might start, developing a little bit in my corners where I did the little drawing, where I did the sketching at the beginning, to start rounding them a little bit, making them a little bit more pronounced. So it's a lot of fiddling, but I do like the texture that it kind of brings to the picture. And again, it's what I kind of envisioned in my head. Alright, so I finished up with the blue, or with the slate that I was doing, and now I'm going to go ahead and go in with PC 140, and that's eggshell, and this is going to be my kind of base coat over everything, so I'm not going to be really worried about it. This starts toning down everything, so we're just going to go in, and I'm not pushing particularly hard because I still have a lot of other colors, but this is what gives it kind of that cream color overall. And I normally would have started with this one when doing this stone, but like over everything, but I was like, you know, I want some of these to be a little bit bolder. And what I found is this kind of, you know, it does a little bit of adding extra shadows, and I think doing it in this order actually made it work a little bit better overall. So again, just over even the yellow bit up here, because, you know, I want to make sure those colors are still coming through that bit of glow from the light from the church there. And I'm going to go ahead and start going over these little pylons, or whatever they're called. I'm sure that's not them. I am not. I appreciate architecture. I have no clues about the names and what all the little bits are. But I really have a fondness for stonework, particularly. And I'm going to go ahead and do it here in the middle, because this I envision as lighter stone. The little, the frames, especially with the yellow coming out. And I'm just putting it over everything, as you can see. And again, it's just another layer. It's not, I'm not blending or any of that. Still haven't decided what I'm going to do about this star here. I guess I'm just going to have to make it a star. I just wish it hadn't been there. Like I said, I'm not a big fan of the stars overall. But they were put in. The only option I would have is to go back over all of the stuff that I colored in with my pencils and basically take acrylic paint and cover over everything. But I like the depth of changes of my sky, so I guess I'll just have to deal with the with the stars, sorry. Alright, so now we've done that next layer. Now what I'm going to go ahead and do, because I like doing, in fact it was really hard for me just to do this section and not the whole thing, because when I'm doing something, for me to kind of remember what I'm doing and to feel very confident that's cohesive, I normally do one element completely. But I started this page not with the idea of filming it, and then when I got kind of into this, I was like, you know, people might be interested in that, so I stopped and then waited to film this now. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and finish coloring this section and this section in up here at the top as well, and then we'll come in with our next color, which is going to start adding more of that grit. So as you can see, if the sun was out, we could say the sun was on here and that's why it's so much lighter, but it's starting to have that really deep color and those deep crevices. You're not seeing those yet, and that's still to come. So I'm going to finish this up and then we'll come back in with that warm gray. Alright, so I've done some moving around, and it's quite a few weeks later from when I was working on the earlier pieces that you've seen so far. I have went out and got me some better lighting, just because I was noticing how yellow everything is. So we're a little bit brighter, so hopefully these colors are a little bit truer, so you can really see them. So we're going to go ahead and move on, and now we're moving to the 70% cool gray, which is number PC1065. And now is when we start kind of trying to get more of that grungy, deeper look. So right now it's pretty light. So we're going to start here and, you know, just start going in there and putting in, following those gray lines, or the lines that she's already put in there, and really starting to make some of ours that we've put in kind of stand out. So we're just going to start putting in this gray. And this whole process really takes time to build up, but kind of let it just, you know, start out. I don't put in tons of really heaviness. I kind of let it build itself, kind of go with where I've already started putting some different shadows, and just really keep letting it build. Your line shouldn't be perfectly straight because the mortar between these bricks or stones really wouldn't have been. Plus you have, you know, I like to think of it as maybe hundreds of years of the stone even being further worn than it was before it was even put into the church. Now I'm avoiding these spots to really let them start glowing, because that's something I can add later, but I've got plenty to do for the time being. I don't know if you can see it already, how this is starting to pick up more definition than up here, and it's just putting in those darker tones. And if you don't get everything this time around, you know, I just like telling you what I'm using, and I do kind of use the entire, I go over the whole picture, just as I was saying earlier, with whatever color, so that I know what color I'm on. But you know, you could just, Vicky does this beautiful thing where, I mean, she can stay in this corner and do all this and then repeat it through the whole thing. And I wish I could do that, because I think it'd make for a much more interesting tutorial if I could do everything in one corner instead of you having to see me go through the whole process. But that's just, I just feel that once I get kind of the pressure and I know how much I'm wanting, you know, how much color I want to put down, I don't want to switch colors and then forget later. It's the same as, you know, knowing what colors I use in what order. And my little list that I make, which helps me when I go back to edit the tutorial or the coloring session, I should say. It's not really a tutorial, it's just how I do it. When I go back, you know, my little list that I have with all of my colors and all that is very helpful. But I do this even when I'm not doing any type of filming, just so that I know what order I've done my colors in, just in case I want to repeat it in the future, or if I find a spot that I forgot. Because sometimes you do, you get to that little spot, you're like, why is that spot not colored? You know, I have a bunch of these trees to do, so I can do the trees on this page, but go to the other one and then, oh, how did I do the trees? Yeah, there's always a reason to be trying to use it a little bit. So up here I'm going to start putting in some little shadows up here in the eaves a little bit, but still really just focusing on the stonework. All right, so here we go. So I went in and I've went ahead and did the 70% cool gray, and now I'm going to go in with my warm gray. And this is 50% warm gray, PC1054. And going to do just the same thing, just starting to really kind of add little chips and shadows and trying to make it kind of stand out. This color actually gets us going a little bit more, it starts getting into the little bit deeper, darker realms, which is good. Not so bluey because we are going more warm. And just kind of changes up, starts casting some of those shadows, like I said, and really grunging up the stone a little bit so that we get a little bit more definition and changes throughout so you can really see. And again, there's not really a whole lot of rhyme and reason other than trying to follow the marks that I've already done, and we want to just keep getting it a little bit darker. In fact, I'm going to sharpen this. This must be the new version of, this is like a new pencil. All right, so that's deepened that a little bit more. Now it's time for me to go on and do the sides, and then we'll come back and we'll be going in yet again. So you know me, the queen of layers, just trying to really get this depth. I'm trying to get as deep as what I have over in here, and I want to make sure it looks all even. So I think we're getting close though. I'm running out of pencils, that's for sure, to use. All right, so I've got some more deep, I'm now seeing that it's really pulling in, looking a lot more like the original. So remember, this is new, and that's new. I'm starting to see more of a balance. So I'm getting pretty darn close. I think I'm just gonna go over it now with this PC 1070 and kind of go over everything all together and see if I can get a good blend. But I'm pretty happy with it as it stands right now. I'm feeling like it has a lot of texture. So this one is more of a kind of a taupe color. This is going to go in and only have a few, leave some highlights, but I'm going to use it a little bit as a blender for some of my grays and blues, and then just leave a few little, like, almost like they're the little chips, or places where there aren't chips on the stone, kind of leave it as a highlighter. But I'm going to use this kind of as a blender to some degree, because just on the edges there. Oh, sorry. Don't know if you were able to see that. So yeah, we're just going to keep going all the way down. And pretty happy so far with the stone. I'm probably going to end up leaving it after this and calling the stone done. I still have a little bit up at the top of the church there to do, but basically I wanted to come on and show you how I was doing the stone in this particular picture, and kind of going over some spots. Like I said, just kind of blending. And that's the thing, when you get so many layers with the Prisma, particularly in this book, it really does work well to use another color pencil, whether it's white, or in this case it's kind of that taupe color. What is this? Yeah, this is the French gray, 30% French gray is what this one is. But because you have so many layers, it really can be used more as a blender. I don't use blender pencils, and I won't use any Gamsol here on the church. There's no reason for that kind of blend. So this is the next best thing. And I've really let these areas where the light's coming out, because I want it to really glow on those, on the stone. So I've left that where I had put the yellow originally, and I've just put in a couple extra little stone marks. But you really can't see her lines anymore, and that's kind of was the whole point of doing this process. The lines kind of fade in. I've used them as guides, so you don't really have things that look like they're jarring to the eye, that they don't go with the lines that she'd already put in. So I'm feeling pretty good about this at this point. I'll probably tweak it a little bit. But for now, I think that the stone on the church is definitely done. I probably could go in and darken this side up, but yet there's a lot of light. I need to do a little bit more here around these windows, but overall, I'm pretty happy with it. So that's how I decided to do the stone. It kind of shows you how you can take a picture that just either has some lines, or you can put lines into it to give texture to the church as it's set up here. So I am going to go ahead and call that done for now. I still have a few things to do, and then I will probably come back in at some point, and I'm thinking finishing up the candles here to get them from this stage, which I wish I had filmed, but again, I started doing this not realizing I was going to film it. But from that stage, let's see if I can, to this stage over here, and just kind of show you how I do that and get it more of that kind of glowing kind of, let's see, there we go, get kind of that glow going where you don't have a striking of lines, because that's always the battle with coloring books, is to try to how do we diminish the lines. So I hope that you've enjoyed this so far. I hope you found it interesting or something to follow along. We will continue on. This page is taking me quite a while, but it has so many elements in it that I'm nervous about. And then I also wanted to make sure that my filming setup was as good as I could possibly make it for us. So I think we're getting there. I don't think there's anything else more that I can do to make it any better, but I hope that at least you can see the colors a little bit better and it's not as yellow as the earlier film or video of this was. So thanks for joining in and checking to see what we're doing and working on these stones. I really do appreciate it. And don't forget to keep coloring those pages. Until next time, bye for now.